All right, so I'm pretty stoked. I've had a lot of really great interviews on here so far. Roland Betts is was the most lively and enthusiastic and just a blast. Okay, so I want to go over the definition of thriving that I have been working with. Okay, so to thrive is to live with forward momentum, not just surviving the grind. It's the difference between breathing and really living. Thriving means your roots go down deep and your fruit shows up in your relationships, your work, your faith, and your mindset. It's not about perfection or constant happiness. It's about vitality. Growing under pressure, not wilting from it. A man who thrives learns how to balance strength and softness. He shows up with his family with energy, his team with clarity, his God with gratitude. He doesn't ignore hardships. He harnesses it. Thriving men cultivate resilience, rhythm, and rest. They are awake to purpose, aligned with values, and driven by stewardship instead of ego. Thriving isn't a reward for getting everything right. It's the result of living rightly. With alignment between what you believe, how you act, and who you serve. When you thrive, you become a source of life for others. You don't just endure seasons, you enrich them. If it wasn't obvious there, I was reading that. And I really like that definition. I think that it has a little bit of work to be done to it, but man, I feel like it's in the mid to upper 90s. So some of the things that I learned from Roland and some of the things that I learned before and since, and really just thinking about all of this, is that it seems to me that with respect to thriving, that when I look at Adam and Eve in the garden and they're told to go prosper, they're told to go out there and take dominion over the whole earth, and God wants them to do well. And then when they fall and they experience the curse, the thing is it's like they're being sent out to go live really without him. And a huge part of prospering and a huge part of flourishing and thriving is going to be the result of inviting God, praying that he would be working to get him more involved in our lives. It isn't that he's unwilling at all, right? It's a matter of really wanting his input. Okay, so with respect to thriving, I also have to say that our definition and what we're looking at for thriving and flourishing and that sort of thing is several aspects of our life. Our work, our relationships, our health, whatever. It's the aspects of our life. And I've known people that have been thriving in their work life, but their relationships are blowing up and their health is in bad shape. They're working way too much. And so they can, in one respect, look like they're thriving while their health and their relationships are suffering. And you can be out of balance. We're all out of balance in one respect or another. But it's important that we look and look at our lives and say, is the being out of balance damaging other areas of our life? So from there, one of the things that Roland pointed out that I thought was well said was that there really shouldn't be any secular areas of our life. It's one of these things where I've had conversations with people that were doing really cool stuff that I didn't understand. And for me, it was one of those things where I really enjoyed what they had to say, because when I sat down to talk to them or interview them, they were like, well, the first thing that I do is ask God to be right in the middle of it. And it's the funniest thing, because when they've said this, I'm like, you can do that? There's been things that people have told me, hey, I show up and I just kind of start praying and I ask God to be right in the middle of it, and I'm totally blown away. They're like, yeah, I'm a bookkeeper, or I'm an engineer, or whatever, and I start out with just asking God to bless it and to help me do good work, and it's just one of those things that I've never really given too much thought about doing it that way. I always just tried to honor him and assume that he's going to bless it from there. But these are people that really prosper and really flourish in what they do. There isn't a assumption on their part that God is going to take notice and just show up. They feel that the invitation is extremely important. So as Roland and I got to talking, the topic of age and that sort of stuff came up a little bit briefly. And in your 20s, thriving looks a bit different than in your 30s. In your 20s, you've got tons of energy. You can do things physically and maybe even in some respects mentally better than you can at other times in your life. I think they say that the front part of your brain finishes developing when you're 25 or something like that. And so you are physically changing. Your brain, everything's physically changing. In your 30s, thriving may actually look a little more relational. It depends on who you are, and it depends on where your life is in those stages. So don't think that thriving is going to look the same for every stage of your life. It'll definitely look different in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s. And somebody that's thriving in their 70s isn't capable of doing the things that they were thriving at when they were in their 20s. And they shouldn't expect that to be the case. Then Roland and I got to discussing failure and what goes into that. And one of the things that we both agreed wholeheartedly on was that you have to be willing to fail to succeed. And this is one of the things that I think is sort of important to do in your 20s especially, is that you really lean into this. Don't be afraid to fail, look like an idiot. I mean, honestly, I've got a lower tolerance for looking stupid. I really don't like it. Just because I do it a lot really doesn't mean that I like it. I really don't like it. But I know that playing the game, that's part of the game. And it's the people that are trying not to look stupid, they're trying so hard not to look stupid that they don't play the game. They don't put up any shots. They don't do anything hard. They only do the things that they know that they can't lose at. They wind up, there's a handful of things that leaders do that are afraid to lose. They don't connect with people. They wind up, I'm going to get to that here in a little bit, but know that people that will discuss their failures with you, those are the real ones. Those are the ones that you really want to take note of. And you'll also notice that failure, generally speaking, isn't fatal. There was a guy that I remember reading that said that 9 out of 10 businesses fail in the first year, and those that don't fail, it's 90% fail in the second 2 or 3 years or something like that. Anyway, the odds of you getting to 10 years without closing the doors down are super, super, super low. But he wasn't saying don't try. He was saying get out there and start getting those failures done. Because the thing is that the guy that opens up that second business after the first one failed, the odds of him winning are vastly higher because he's a different person. He's showing up with a bunch of experience. And that guy that blows that business up and shoots for a third one, he's a very different person too. So keep this in mind, that just because, like, stack those failures up like bricks and learn from them, and don't make the same mistake over and over and over again. Make brand new mistakes and learn from them until you run out of mistakes to learn about. Okay? You've got, I didn't really get to bring this one up, but you got 3 different kinds of people out there. You've got your fragile people that when they take a punch, they break, they shatter, they can't deal with loss and failure and that sort of thing. Then you have this strange group of people, the durable people. Now, one of the things that I will tell you about durable people is they just don't change their ways. Even when they're getting beat up, even when what they're doing doesn't work, they just keep doing it the same way. And then some of them find ways to justify that. They don't say, oh no, I'm doing it wrong. They say, oh, yep, this is my lot. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to take all of these L's. I'm supposed to make sure that everybody around me doesn't really develop, doesn't really grow, doesn't really embrace vision and that sort of thing. They are very durable at taking a beating, and that's nothing to be super proud of. You should be working on developing and working on growing. The third type is the anti-fragile. Their failures and their losses actually cause them to grow and develop. This is what really should be normal. We should be more than durable, more than the kind that just show up and do the same thing over and over again or break under the slightest pressure. Being anti-fragile, that's the goal. By the way, there's an awesome book by that same title. I strongly suggest that you get it. It's a really great book. Okay, now, beware of leaders that don't fail. They can appear to not fail. Okay, so you can have them that hide their failures. The worst ones yet are actually the ones that lie to themselves and say, oh, no, I'm not really failing. I haven't really failed. That's the worst, because there's nothing you can do with them or for them because they're just basically dishonest. And when you discover that they're dishonest, it's probably time to confront them. And if they don't adjust, then it's time to let them go. The thing with them is also that they, generally speaking, don't connect with people. You see, when you're hiding your failures and you're trying to pretend like you haven't taken an L, people don't connect with you. See, we connect at our points of weakness. We connect at those people that are vulnerable with us and that we can look at and say, man, I totally understand what they're talking about. I vibe with that. Think of the people that you connect with in person or even online, the people whose videos you watch. And a lot of the ones that we connect with the most strongly with are the ones that admit their mistakes and laugh about them and say, man, that one hurt really bad, and I learned a lot. And you know what? I would like to even share with you the lessons that I learned. Those are the kind of people that we really, really, really come to appreciate. Now, one of the other things that Roland and I were talking about was mentoring people, getting a coach, that sort of thing. When you learn to swim, you can do this a couple different ways. You can watch a video and then jump in the pool and splash around. You could read a book, jump in the pool, swim around, well, you'll wind up splashing around, and hopefully, the water's not too deep. But the best way, the fastest way, is going to be getting somebody that can get in the pool with you, that will help you will explain stuff, model it, and then give you some feedback when you go to swim. That's the best, fastest, purest way of learning how to thrive and to really live. If you're doing something important, it's especially so. So running a business, living a life, that's where it's especially vital. Now, speaking of, I am a high-performance coach. I am a certified high-performance coach. I am certified by Brendan Burchard, which if you haven't watched his stuff is spectacular. He was a great coach. I went through his training. He certified me, and I gotta say that that was some of the best training in the world. I've been coaching people for decades, but that made it so that it was more systematized. I've had coaching, and then I had coaching from them, and the greatest difference is that theirs was scientifically backed, and they discovered that there were a handful of skills that if you develop those in your life, you will naturally thrive. So if you have clarity of vision and goals, you're going to be aimed in the right direction. If you develop the skill of productivity and you can figure out how to develop and be more productive in your day, you're going to do well. If you can learn how to be persuasive, getting your thoughts and words out there and getting people to jump in and participate in your life, that's awesome too. There's a bunch of skills, and if you want to take a quiz that I think it takes 4 minutes to take, you will have a handle on where you are on many of these topics. And at the end of that, you can schedule a 90-minute strategy call with me, and we can get you some quick wins, even for free. Even with the 90-minute strategy call, we can dive into your life some, and it's a lot of fun, and it's super helpful. If you want to skip the quiz and just get the 90-minute call, you can do that, but I do think that the quiz makes it so that you've had some time to think about it before we get together. All right, so with coaches and mentors, the things with them is that not only are you able to get feedback, but you're able to get reassurance from people, and you're able to benefit from their experiences. I know that I said some of this, but it really bears repeating. It's a good thing to be repeated on. The people that have done the things that you want to do, if you talk with them, you're going to find that they talk differently. The person that is a fan of volleyball is going to talk about the sport differently than somebody that plays it. The guy that loves watching NASCAR is going to talk differently than the driver of the car. The driver has the scars and the marks and the wear on them, and they can communicate all of that. And so it's important that you get somebody that is qualified to speak into your life. And I do think that having somebody that's actually done it is the best way to go. Now, Roland said something really early on in the conversation, and I've kind of restructured things here so that because I wanted to put everything in a little bit different order than what we had talked about. So Roland talked about you're either growing or shrinking. And I've known a lot of people that they wind up charging up. They wind up getting to this place where it is really, really no fun. They're not having fun anymore. And what they'd really like to do is just plateau. And they start mailing it in, and they start not working to grow and develop. In some respects, I've seen people that they're kind of retired already and don't know it. And then what happens is they're coasting and they mentally get flabby, and mentally they are just not giving the same attention, and they're not engaged like they were. And what happens is it's just natural that in life difficulties come. And if you're the wide receiver that, you're just taking time off and you're just coasting and you're not continuing to develop, then when that time that you need to step up really happens, you're just not capable. And one of the worst things that you can do, one of the worst things that I've seen is when somebody has mentally retired and checked out, and they can't really admit it. And then what they do is they wait for some disaster to come upon them, and they are retired. One of the other things that kind of came up was we were talking about being programmed in our youth. And Roland was talking about the effects of our parents saying negative things about us. But it doesn't need to be necessarily our parents. It could be anybody that's saying super negative things about us, or just assumptions, or you know what? It really doesn't matter where the seed came from. It really doesn't. You don't need to know where the seed came from. What you need to do is change your thinking and change your activities. There was a guy that I was listening to a while back, and he said it's kind of like tennis. You can have a bad swing, right? And your coach says, hey, you need to choke up on that thing, or you need to rotate it around, or you need to switch your hands, or whatever. He gives you some pointer. But what he doesn't do is say, hey, let's talk about the origins of that swing you got there. There's no benefit to that. What you need to do is focus in on the activity and say, I'm going to do it differently from now on. Why I believe this doesn't really matter. Who taught me doesn't really matter. Okay? Wherever this came from, that thought's wrong. That way of doing it's wrong. And I need to do it this way. That's what really matters. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter where it came from. The thing is that it is the thought that needs to get dealt with. And there's this thing that I have that is in my morning routine, and I think it's in the video that I did on the morning routine. But I call it the bush of knowledge instead of the tree of knowledge. It is the bush of knowledge, and basically I take these oversized. What are they? There's some kind of a recipe card, and as I'm learning things, I'm developing ideas, I write on the recipe cards. And then in the morning, I read through those cards. And so I'm constantly developing and reinforcing different ideas. And this bush grows and grows and grows. And then at some point, I look at it and I don't want to pull out the cards. There's just too many. This is when you trim the bush back. And you just go and you rewrite some stuff. You look over some stuff, and this is a great time to celebrate your wins, a great time to look at things and say, man, you know what? I actually don't need to write this one again. I've actually already got this one figured out. This is a win. And you can reorganize and, diddle around a little bit with the configuration, and it's completely up to you. If there's a time when you're going to become where the card is going to be helpful and then not helpful. Okay, so shadow activities. Beware of shadow activities. Video games can give you a sense of accomplishment. It can put quests behind you or in front of you. It can give you all sorts of feedback that you're winning, that you're doing all sorts of cool stuff. But when you power it down, you actually haven't done anything. The upside is that real life sort of resembles those games. The games call for you to develop new skills. You need new skills. If you're playing team games, you need to develop camaraderie. You need to develop the ability to address things. These are things that are transferable. So, but you need to do the transfer. You need to develop the transfer. Okay, do the transfer. Develop the skills. Okay, now, don't lose any more time playing the games. Don't do it. Invest in real life, okay? You can have a shadow career as well. By doing things that don't challenge you, a shadow career is not going to help you to develop and level up. And your real career should be causing you to mature and develop and that sort of thing. So go after that. Take a look at what you're doing and see that if it's too easy for you, then you need to figure out what you need to be doing differently, because you need to be developing. Okay, social media. This is one of these things that can be a little bit deceitful, because whatever you're scrolling past, whatever you're looking at, you are comparing yourself to. You are looking at it and you are comparing yourself or your situation or the things in your life to the things that you're looking at. And comparison really is the thief of joy. It will, when you get done scrolling, you don't feel more alive. You feel somehow like it took something from you, like it sucked on your soul a little bit. And I want to encourage you to stay away from social media and really give your brain and your mind and your heart and your soul and your spirit and everything an opportunity to breathe some. And this comes from unplugging and connecting. You know, this can happen connecting with nature. One of the things that I've recently started to do is get some poetry in my life, because I was reading somewhere and this guy said that poetry is the one thing that you can't do fast. It requires that you slow down. And so I kind of embrace that, because I tend to love going fast forever and until I pass out. This is a bit of an exaggeration, but not too much. So yeah, watch out for distractions. Loading up on all sorts of pleasures will compete with what you should be doing for your life. Final questions. How big does a tree grow? As big as it can. This was something that Jim Rohn used to say. How big should a man grow? As big as he can. Sometimes we decide that I'm done growing, I'm done developing, and I think that that's when we start to die. All species of trees grow to different heights. All species of tree grow, same with men. All men grow to different sizes. We have different capacities. We have different abilities, strengths, intelligence, all these different things. We're not all called to become the same in the end. So, in the end here, I'd like you to invite God to be involved in whatever it is that you're doing. Invite him in, work to have him reprogram your mind, meditate on what he says, and it will change your life. Do those things, and you will see that chunks of your life are going to change. Okay? Don't measure up to other people. Measure up to who you should be. Are you better today than you were yesterday? Do you have a plan for getting better tomorrow? I'm Adam Funderburg, and I will catch you later. Bye-bye.